What's good, friends? Christopher here, and let's talk a little hopezy life. We got some really exciting stuff. I've been chatting with a handful of you guys, kind of one-on-one with messenger calls and things like that. Really stoked with what we're putting together. So, obviously, as I announced today, we're shifting focus. We're doing sort of a pre-project that's going to precede the Easy token. Now, potentially, we're going to go with Panda Dragon for this particular project. Hard to say. It's going to be more mimetic than the Easy token, because the Easy token, of course, it's a more complicated idea. We're going to need a larger community to launch it correctly. But what's really, really cool is we can launch sort of this starter project that is going to, lay the groundwork from a capital and a community building standpoint to launch the Easy token, and therefore launch all of these individual projects that we're each going to get to create. Because of course we're all different, right? We all have different interests, different passions, different reasons why we feel like we're on this planet. And so it's important that what we build helps all of us do what we're all here to do. So that being said, let me pop around a little bit. So first things first, I wanted to talk about kind of the crypto space in general, and go a little bit from there. So obviously Bitcoin isn't the entirety of crypto, but Bitcoin's about half of crypto. So what Bitcoin does, crypto tends to do. So if we take a look at Bitcoin, we can see that we're on a little bit of a run here, right? We're regaining market capitalization that was lost after Bitcoin halving. Now, Bitcoin halving is the mining mechanism decreasing by half as far as what you get for a successful mining operation, and that happens every 4 years. When that's happened, we've had a price correction, price goes down, and then we've had a rally, a bull run following it. So when we take a look at just the last 24 hours, we can see a correction that was, let's go back to 3 months here. So for 2-ish months, give or take, Bitcoin hadn't dropped below $60,000. Had hit a high of somewhere around 72-ish thousand, give or take. But it hadn't gone below 60,000, which is a really nice support level after being all the way down, late last year, significantly lower in the 20,000s, give or take. So it was a nice overall run over the course of less than a year. We knew there was going to be a correction with Bitcoin halving. Back 24. But now we're digging ourselves out of that. We didn't go below 55,000 like I said we would not go below 55,000. That's not to say that it won't ever happen. It, of course, could happen. But I don't think it's going to happen for this cycle. Now, we're seeing a little bit of a stabilization point here, somewhere in the neighborhood of 61.5, 62,000, give or take. So we'll see what kind of support happens to hit if we're able to see Bitcoin run a little bit higher. I anticipate, it's hard to say with this pattern here, but I would anticipate just giving things maybe a little sideways action and then a sell-off, ultimately trying to figure out its support somewhere in the low 60, 65,000 range. Then we're going to hit another inflection point. So we'll just kind of pay attention to that, see how things move. But I wanted to note that because from a timing standpoint, it matters when we launch the token, hence kind of the pivot and moving to something that is a little bit easier to grasp, more of a mimetic concept that can act as sort of the catalyst, sort of the spark to launch our rocket, right? That is the hopezy life. Because we're going way beyond the moon. We're going to Pluto. So it's going to take a while to get to Pluto. We got to think of, this is the visual that came to my mind the other day just to go off on a tangent. But we're sort of going to be assembling the rocket as we're flying through space. So luckily, along the way up, we've got different people that have set up these platforms that we can get these different tools to make our rocket more efficient, better propulsion systems, all of that type of stuff. But ultimately, we're going to Pluto. So that being said, some of the cool news is enough debate. We're going to launch this project on Solana blockchain. It's the home of the meme coin. We're going to go mimetic. Let's go Solana, right? Now, Solana's fifth highest market cap, so it's a big coin. It's a good coin. It's been around for a while. It's got some legs. It's not going anywhere, right? And when we take a look at, excuse me, we take a look at, let's look at its year, excuse me, let's start with the max first. So what we can see here is sort of a replicating pattern from around the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, where it hit a previous all-time high. Now we're getting a little bit of support and then some buying, right? I think what is going to happen, and maybe this dips a little bit more, maybe there's some more sideways action. It's hard to, obviously, this is not financial advice. I'm not saying anything with certainty. I'm just kind of speculating, thinking out loud. But what I believe is going to happen is the crypto bull run of 2024, that is going to ultimately, as I've stated before, Bitcoin hitting $100,000 by 2025. That's going to involve Solana going on a run as well. Now, I think if we can time this right, somewhere in the neighborhood of where we're at, which is why I encourage you to get a Phantom wallet or some other Solana wallet if you don't have one already, because we're going to be launching a coin sooner rather than later, and you want to be involved in it at the earliest point possible. What we're looking at is, I think, potentially being able to ride the coattails of the Solana token. So the way we're going to be doing this, because with the Easy token, all of these tokenomics, all of the utility, everything like that, it's all upfront costs, development costs, to being able to put this out on the blockchain. And then, of course, you want some legitimate liquidity for stability purposes. You want a community behind it to, again, kind of add to the overall stability, etc. And I need a really successful pre-sale, which I just, this is my first crypto project. It has not been a successful pre-sale so far, just to be transparent. So I had to kind of shift things around a little bit because we need to act sooner than later. I do believe that people will invest in this project. They just haven't seen enough to invest, and that's completely understandable, right? So what we're looking at is a shift over to pump.fun. Now, this is a degen of degen exchange sites. What they've done is they've created a marketplace where anybody, for virtually nothing, can create their own cryptocurrency. Now, this means a handful of different things. One, this means you can make a cryptocurrency for virtually no money, and that's really, really cool. Because if you turn that into something, that's awesome, right? Maybe you make a bunch of money with it. It also means that people put a bunch of garbage up here. It also means people put a bunch of hateful, racist, awful stuff on this website, because anyone can make anything for virtually no amount of money. But it also means that real legitimate projects with long-term legs, with good fundamentals, as they say, not a technical analysis of a chart. It's important, but fundamentals are significantly more important. The foundation of anything, right? So projects with good foundations, this allows them to start, build a community from the ground up, and sort of pre-sale as they grow. So the way that this works is, when you create your coin, you start with a $5,000 market cap that'll ultimately go to $70-some thousand. And once it goes to $70,000, you're then going to get transferred over to the Radium exchange, which is a more quote-unquote legitimate exchange. Now, once you're on the Radium exchange, you'll then be available on Dex Screener and Dex Tools, and you'll have more exposure within the greater crypto community. And from that point, things can really take off and you can really grow. Now, we'll get into kind of how things tend to work. But ultimately, let's take a look here at, let's do this. Let's first go to market cap. And let's take a look at this little cat coin. So it's not like this is any sort of a genius, clever idea. And I'm not that dialed in on this culture, so I don't particularly know these memes. But Michi, it's a little cat standing on two legs. It's a cute cat, right? Okay, I don't know what that matters. We can see if we scroll down bonding curve progress. So they beat that. This is what I was kind of talking about. You start with the $5,000 market cap and you go to like 72-ish thousand. And then from that point, you move to the Radium exchange and have a liquidity pool burned. Below that, you can see they got King of the Hill on 4.7, which, just to go back, King of the Hill is this kind of prime position on their website where you're marketed to the rest of the crypto community. If we go back to market cap, back to the coin we were looking at, so this is when they got that, and then this is the distribution of the tokens, the top 20 holders. You can see the dev here as 1.23%. So, oh, and then also, excuse me, we've got a little chat down here where people in the community can engage with the community, right? Pretty active. It would also show us, actually, if we view it on Radium, it should show us website, Telegram, all of that type of stuff. So we could pull up a website, nice, cute little basic coin, or excuse me, basic website that you would see for a meme coin. Their Twitter page, got 6,700 followers. We've got a Telegram. What do they got there? 2,300 on their Telegram channel. So Telegram's important. But what are we even talking about here? What does this matter? Well, what we're talking about is a coin, a project that is now worth $137.98 million. And how far back do we go? So the 6-month chart, this is pretty good to start with, to look at, right? You can see basically, starting way, way, way low, and then the pump just continues and continues and continues and continues. And here we are today with this massive project, all off of that cute little cat, right? Just that silly little idea turned into being worth this. So, what else is there worth pointing out with this? Not every coin turns out to be like that. In fact, as you obviously could guess, most of them don't turn out to be anything close to that. But most of them aren't this, right? Most of them aren't me and my story with my brother. Most of them aren't our community that we're building of people that legitimately want to build a brighter future through creativity, charity, and being of service to other people. Every single coin that ever gets made, if not all of them, don't have all of those things. What we have is unique and is special and is inside information almost to anyone else in the outside crypto space that may decide to play around with our token. So, when we jump in, let's take a look at some early tokens here and potential things that could happen. So, first and foremost, we're a long-term project. What happens in the short term needs to be recognized for what it is. It's nothing to panic about. You don't sit and watch the stock market every single second and react as it ticks, right? So, this is a volatile space. Again, we know long-term we're moving in the right direction. So we're not going to sweat the small stuff, but let's just take a look at, I'm not really seeing anything below 4. So we'll just click this random coin here. Not a good example. Bump order, that's not what I want. Patient time. Maybe I do want bump order. Let's look at this one. Not a good example. It's not going to be anything that high. Here we go. Okay. So, and unfortunately, I can't really do too much with this particular chart, but what we can see is this went up to almost a 20% gain, and then it was sold, right? This is a dead token, as it would appear, if you were looking at this with a kind of a reactive lens, if you weren't recognizing it as a short-term thing. But let's say hypothetically, and it most likely is, by the way, this is most likely just somebody trying to make a quick buck. Cool, whatever, that's what it is. But if you were thinking about this long-term, what you could be realizing is that this token is now significantly undervalued, because if this turned into $1 million project, instead of being a $4,000 project currently, well, shoot, you're getting in at an extreme discount, right? So when we go back and we look at, let's just grab this different cat coin, and we look at these charts, it's important to recognize at these early stages, when things pump up and then go down, not to panic. Because again, as we grow the community, we're going to be giving this thing legs so that it can keep building. Now this coin's interesting, right? It went all the way up to, 370 some million off of an initial liquidity of about 5,000. That's insane. And it did so in how much amount of time? 26 March to 31st of March. Less than a week. Less than a week. It went from $5,000 market cap to nearly $400 million market cap. Imagine owning just a piece of that you bought in for $15 to $20, because the minimum buy is 0.1 SOL, which is about $15 right now. This is insane. Now, who knows? I'm assuming, based on the sideways action at the tail end of the chart here, who knows? Maybe they're trying to keep this thing going, keep this thing alive. But again, what we're building isn't some sort of little, like, we're not doing something dumb like this, right? This Peppy Hitler nonsense. This is kind of a trend. This, I can't remember the name of it, but you can see this cartoon style. And I'm so not dialed into all of these particular memes. But I've got my own ideas on things that can work based on what I've been seeing. And it ultimately is going to be an experiment. It's going to be, how well it takes off, I don't know. I know long term, this is what I know. I know long term, we all think the world could use some more hope. We all want to make things brighter for future generations, our kids and our grandkids, etc. We all know that there's a lot of problems in the world today that could use fixing. And that a lot of people have a real rough shake at things. So that idea is going to spread. This idea of making charity and being of service and just a brighter, happier, more creative life, that'll spread. We know that's going to happen. But how quick it spreads is going to depend on how well we can dive into meme culture and kind of know what's funny, because the reaction that you want people to have is at a glance without having to. This is the problem essentially that I've realized with the hopezy life. This is a lot. This is a lot. Now, some people are going to appreciate this, but this is kind of the old paradigm of business, right? Think about going to a bank with a business plan and having to meet with somebody and present it to them and all of that type of stuff. And that, of course, has changed over the years. But the reality with crypto projects, the reality with the mimetic spread of an idea, is it needs to be easily understood and immediately understood, right? So I'm going to have to redo this entire website. I've got a vision in my head. It's going to take some time, and I don't particularly feel like doing it, and it works fine as it is right now. But ultimately, we're going to be making a bunch of different projects, and so this website needs to be set up for the purpose of making a bunch of different projects and hosting projects that you guys come up with, right? But where am I trying to go with that? The point of that being, very soon, we're going to be launching our token on pump.fun. It's going to be a long-term project, but it's going to be a mimetic-based first project, because we're going to try to capitalize on seeing something immediately that makes you say, oh, I like that, I'm going to click on it. And then based on it being liked at, if you have this set to bump order, and you see the same token, let's see, for example, this green face keeps getting bought, right? Yep, keeps going there. So Dua Lipa Owl, okay? Looks like there's a dump going on right now, is what all the activity is. But who knows? Maybe a buy all of a sudden starts happening and a big pump takes place. But if you can get the activity because you're the bump order, or because your forum, again, Dua Lipa here, and they're all saying it's a rug, it's a scam, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but if this is full of like good comments, right? Because it's a good community that's bought into a good project, etc. Well, then that's going to keep you in the attention of people, which is then going to get more outside people noticing it, etc. Things like this. And of course, once you then do get to, let's just look at this duck. I mean, again, these aren't necessarily complicated ideas. It's all just about having a community behind an idea, right? When we take a look at this over on Deck Screener, and let's look at market cap. So this little duck, yeah, in no time flat. I mean, but this is a $21.16 million duck. And how big of a Twitter account did it take? 9271. That's how many followers the Twitter account has that created that duck. A Telegram account of 2916. These aren't massive communities. They're just, I mean, they have a decent size. I'm not trying to negate what they have. A lot of it's come after the fact, right? It wasn't initially when they were worth next to nothing. It was all of a sudden they got pumped up, and then people paid attention and bought into the project, and then all sorts of stuff happened, right? So I'm getting a little bit off topic. The point of me bringing this up is we want to be thinking as a community that can do things as a community, because if we can come up with really good ideas that we know about before other people know about, then that gives us a early advantage, right? An insider advantage. And in the crypto decentralized space, that's pretty slick. The more projects we can make with a collective ethos aimed in the same direction. And again, I can't think of a better way than charity and being of service to other people while spreading creativity and positivity. If we can do under a collective ethos, it can be, it'll be like Bitcoin essentially, right? Like Bitcoin is pulling all currencies up, all cryptocurrencies behind it. The hopezy.life can be the same type of thing that's pulling up all these individual projects that all of you guys come up with, right? I have all my own ideas, you have all your own ideas, and I encourage you to come up with even more ideas. And we just aim that thing. And we just, again, like I said, we assemble this rocket ship that we're shooting up to Pluto, way past the moon, right? Going to Pluto. And we assemble it as we go. And it's going to take us all up with it. So I don't want to get too overly excited. Obviously, this is not financial advice. If I haven't said it enough, my lawyers made me do it. Play at your own risk, but I'm in this thing for the long haul. So I'm, regardless of what you may see in a short term on a chart, make your own assessment of what you can see of me based on all the social media posts I've done and talking to me one-on-one or whatever the case may be. I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this thing to spread hope. And the token we make on pump.fun may seem silly. It may seem like a dumb meme. To an extent, it will be. But it's also going to be an absolute insane instrument of good that I commit to. So on that note, peace. We'll catch you next time.